I focused on the fact that education in Pakistan had not shifted away once the Britishers left in 1947. The first drawback that has been, and we haven't been able to solve it so far, is the language issue. Teaching should be in the mother tongue, and that is when children understand immediately. Terbiyah ke bagair Taleem nahi ho sakti. Parents definitely have a big role in how social media has to be handled. And of course, there's a lot of rubbish and a lot of harm that young children can face from social media and internet. We only give so much time to social media for young teenagers, for older teenagers, and ensure that they take the phone away from them.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm your host Arfa Ashik Ali. Welcome to all of you to another episode of SOE Terbiyah podcast. Today, we have a really special guest with us. She is not only an educationalist, but also a writer, an author, and a teacher trainer. Moreover, she is a graduate from the Kinnaid College and a recipient of the Presidential Award for her books. So let's welcome Ms. Ismat Riyad. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Wa alaikum assalam. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm good.
Ma'am, I have some questions, so shall we start?
Yes, please do.
Ma'am, I want to know that from where did you start this journey of writing novels and books?
All right. It all started from my childhood. I was always a reader. I read all kinds of books apart from the textbooks. So my only entertainment was when I got home was to open up a storybook. And many stories, Hans Christian Andersen's children's stories, all kinds of stories. So being a reader, I was more creative and imaginative later on. My teaching career started in 1973, January. So it's almost 50 years now that I've been in education. And I was a teacher for more than 35 years. And teaching was a passion for me. And of course, you have your skills of speaking in teaching and using your imagination to improve the lesson plans all the time for the children, to make them interested. So I taught history for a long time, and that is what my passion was. History was my passion, and so was teaching. So these two combined eventually took me on a journey when I decided to go abroad and do my master's in London and find out what was a better, more improved version of the kind of educational output that we might have in Pakistan, because things had deteriorated by then. It was 2005. So a lot of things happened in our educational journey in Pakistan, and many things made the standard fall. So once I had done my MA, in which I had to do a lot of writing, there was a thesis for 20,000 words, for which you had to do a lot of research and put it all in 20,000 words. And I titled it Under the Shadow of the Raj, which meant that I focused on the fact that education in Pakistan had not shifted away once the Britishers left in 1947. We were still following in their footsteps in that. Although we were a new country, we had everything else to look at to bring ourselves up as Pakistanis now, not being under the colonial rule of the British. So once I started teacher training, because I felt teachers needed more, I should give my experience to them now. And they'll be going into all kinds of schools and benefiting a lot more of the students rather than I going to one classroom and teaching. So then eventually Oxford University Press asked me to write books on history. At first I was a little reluctant because I felt I needed a more challenging intellectual work rather than a textbook for classes 6, 7 and 8. But then I thought that maybe I can do this for my country and improve the educational status of my country through writing these books. And that is how I started my history books. They're called Understanding History, and they're for classes 6, 7 and 8. So they came into the market around 10 years ago, and then they've done well. And I continuously do teacher training on these books, meeting history teachers, telling them how to teach and make the children learn about history. That is very important. Then I started to write for Dawn newspaper. They had an educational supplement at that time. And I thought maybe through my writing on education, I can highlight some of the failings of our education system in that. And that continued for almost 5 years. But then I gave up. I gave up because things didn't improve generally in the educational scenario. I was not happy. I was bored, continuing to write the same thing over and over again. So I thought I'll take think from that.
इंटरेस्टिंग मैम. एंड इसमें ये भी पता चलता है पढ़ाई की कोई उम्र नहीं होती. बताया कि अभी कैसे बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग लगी. How many books you have written up till now and which one is your favorite and why?
All right. Now I've written about 18 books, but the ones I did for Project Pakistaniyat, because Pakistan is very dear to me as a country, and I feel very loyal to the country, and I hope that all the young people now in Pakistan will continue to have this loyalty to the country and not harm it in any way. So Pakistaniyat, under that project, I wrote 8 books, and they are called I Am Pakistani. And I feel that everything that I've done so far is in those books, because there's history in it, there's geography in it, there's civic sense in it, there is ikhlaqiyat in it, everything that you can think of. And it's all activity-based. So I love those books. And I feel that more and more people should access them and use them. And they will really bring up the character, should know about Allama Iqbal and his poems and the morals that they teach us. They should know about what Quaid-e-Azam said about many, many topics, which is actually there in the books as excerpts from his speeches, and about the wonderful geographical expanse that we have in Pakistan, the diversity of deserts, of mountains, all of that, and the progress that has been made, like the Karakoram Highway, even CPEC is in there, etc., etc. So it's a journey through those books about, there's sports in it, and we've lost our top position in hockey. But when I was in school and college, hockey, we were the hockey champions. So many things we've left behind. And of course, now only cricket is left. So those are my favorite books.
हम आपसे जानना चाहते हैं, who motivated you to write books, especially on the historical field?
Okay. Because I had a passion in history and I used to read a lot of historical fiction all the time. I had a lot of content and knowledge about history. You cannot write on any subject unless you're absolutely well-versed in it. You know to the depths of everything that is. And in history, you can see that many, many incorrect facts come up. Also on the internet. There's so much incorrect information about history on the internet. Motivation came from myself because it was within me the urge to write and to write on history. And eventually, and I taught Pakistan studies also for a long time. And they were the most boring books that anybody could come across. They were introduced in the 1980s. And there was just no pictures, nothing, just written facts. And that was it. But over the years, they've improved with more pictures now, etc. So motivation came from within. And I'm happy that Allah Ta'ala helped me along this journey.
मैम आप तो खुद ही ऑथर हैं माशाल्लाह से, तो आप हमें अपना फेवरेट ऑथर बताएं, उनका नेम हमें बताएं.
Well, my favorite book now is the Quran. And you know who's the author of that book. So I try to have a very close connection with Allah. And that's my spiritual journey now. And of course, I've read countless books, novels, stories, everything else. But the many writers like Charles Dickens and Alexander Dumas and all the books that I've read along the way, they're good writers, and they especially improved my vocabulary in English.
Interesting. What are the drawbacks in our current educational system and how we can improve it?
The first drawback that has been, and we haven't been able to solve it so far, is the language issue.
Yes.
We concentrate on English. We have English medium schools, but UNESCO has done a lot of research on this for many years in Pakistan. And their report says that, in initial classes, at primary level, even elementary level, the teaching should be in the mother tongue. And that is when children understand immediately. I mean, just a simple example, if you look up and you see a fan, you will say in your own mother tongue, it's a pankha. It's a pankha, all right? Immediately in your own mother tongue, and how it does in the second language or third language that you are using. So I think a lot of potential in Pakistan is lost because of English language. I mean, students are not able to perform to their highest potential because their language skills in English are not enough.
तो मैम आप क्या सोचते हैं that तरबिया is as important as education?
तरबियत के बगैर तालीम नहीं हो सकती, ये बात है. तो हमेशा जब हमारे ज़माने में हमेशा जब ये होता था तो वो तालीम और तरबियत होती थी हमेशा. और मुझे याद है कि फिरोज़ से एक किताबें छापते थे हर हफ्ते या हर महीने उसका आता था जिस बच्चों के लिए, जिसमें उसका नाम ही तालीम और तरबियत होता था. तरबियत खैर आपके अपने घर से शुरू होती है. स्कूलों में इट शुड बी रीइंफोर्स्ड. इट हैज़ टू बी पार्ट ऑफ द करिकुलम. And in my time in school, it did happen that we had one character building class every day. So little things like discipline, standing in line, wishing our teachers as they went back, small things. And it continued obviously to bigger things later on. So tarbiyat, if it is missing from the school, then it's just a dry cut robot that you are sending out from your school, which has perhaps no compassion or feelings or empathy for people around.
According to you, what is a significant role that school can play in the character development of a student?
Well, it's an important role, and they should adopt it. And once they've adopted it, they can develop it as they feel they want to do it. Recently, translation of the Quran is now being taught in schools. So obviously through the Quran, they will learn a lot of values, character building. However the school wants to do it, they should do it if they adopt it. But it is a very important part of it.
According to you, what is a significant role that school can play in the character development of a child?
Well, right from the beginning, right from kindergarten, the character building should be part of the way a lesson is planned. And they should be getting the values through that lesson plan every time they do it. So if it becomes a normal part, your educational progress from kindergarten to class 10 or to O level or A level, then obviously the character building will continue to take place. And it is very, very important to do that. हमारे माशरे के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है कि ये सब चीज़ें बच्चे स्कूल से पढ़ के और बन के निकले अच्छे इंसान.
Thank you for answering. What kind of problems parents are facing nowadays in this digital world and how can they overcome this?
सोशल मीडिया है, बच्चे बस हर वक्त फ़ोन पे होते हैं, मोबाइल फ़ोन पे हर चीज़. अब उनको किसी चीज़ के बारे में पता करना है, फ़ौरन गूगल कर लेंगे. मगर इसमें पेरेंटिंग का बहुत बड़ा हाथ होना चाहिए कि किस तरह से वो अपने बच्चों को टाइम अलॉट करें. You will only have the phone for so much, 1 hour. Do your games on it, do whatever you want to do it, and then it will be taken away from you. Schools should not allow mobile phones on their grounds. They should not allow them. Parents definitely have a big role in how social media has to be handled. And of course, there's a lot of rubbish and a lot of harm that young children can face from social media and internet. And that can only be curtailed if children are not allowed to be or given a Wi-Fi. They shouldn't be given a Wi-Fi at such young ages.
What kind of problems parents are facing nowadays in this digital world and how can they overcome this?
Well, right from the beginning, I see young mothers with a child in a pram, and as soon as the child starts crying, they hand their phone over to the child to see some cartoon or whatever. It's happened so many times in restaurants, and this has to be stopped. Parents are the ones who need to only give so much time to social media for young teenagers, for older teenagers, and ensure that they take the phone away from them. Not parents definitely have a big role in how social media has to be handled. And of course, there's a lot of rubbish and a lot of harm that young children can face from social media and internet. And that can only be curtailed if it should not be visible. So that is a way of doing it.
And you know that, ma'am, आजकल mobile phones छोटे-छोटे बच्चों के पास होते हैं, distract their mind from
बिल्कुल.
other activities. And ma'am, आपसे हम जानना चाहते हैं, who inspired you in your student life when you were a student?
I think it was my teachers, the school I studied in, and especially my history teacher. So they were definitely an inspiration. And of course, your own parents, because they are also giving you solid upbringing in the home. And you would like to be. I was very fond of my father. I idealized him. So he was a very disciplined man. And I would be a disciplined person. So these are the inspirations that come. And I hope teachers today are also inspiring their students.
ऐसी कोई interesting book हमारे साथ share करें कि हम भी पढ़ सकें, हमें भी उससे knowledge मिल सके.
Well, I would suggest a book on Qaid-e-Azam, and this is by an author called Stanley Walpert, Jinnah of Pakistan. I have the original copy, the first copy that was published in New York. So that is an inspirational book. Everything about the Qaid-e-Azam and his journey for the making of Pakistan. That book I would recommend.
That's really interesting. I will read this and मैं अपने friends के साथ share भी करूँगी इस book के बारे में. So ma'am, my last question is, I want you to suggest any piece of information or any piece of advice for our parenting, for the parents.
Parenting. Well, my advice would be that for children, parents are the two most important people in their lives. And they should be on-call parents, not interested in their own pursuits, but paying attention to to their children. And at every stage of life, they should be there with them. A lot of children are left to their maids, etc., which is not right. A mother's role is the most important, and the mother has to be there for the child. I mean, in this fast world now, in this technological world now, there's too much happening. But home time with the parents, quiet time with the parents, sitting down together for lunch and dinner, or whatever, being together is very, very important. And I think parents should pay attention to that now.
Thank you, ma'am. आपके कीमती वक्त का बहुत ज़्यादा शुक्रिया. आपसे बात करके हमें बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छा लगा. And आपसे हमें बहुत कुछ सीखने को भी मिला. Until next time, we will come up with another personalities. Allah Hafiz.